In the 20 years that I have been a doctor, I've never regretted it. Having the power in your hands to save someone's life is what I've lived for. Patients come to me on their deathbed, confessing their love to their spouse, standing next to them, thinking they are the only way to Judgment Day. No patient assigned me to this has died. Ever, I take pride in that, and I receive the highest grade of satisfaction whenever my patient is back on their feet. My wife and children do not understand why I can't be at home all the time. My wife, Stephanie, has always hated my working hours, but loved the money that supported many addictions. Sometimes I wish I could scale back. Sometimes I wish I could have family outings in the park, playing a good old game of football with my boys, but the hospital needs me. I'd rather save someone's life than to satisfy my own needs, even if it sacrifices my relationship with my family. Today, as I'm working in the burn unit, the unit that most doctors try to avoid, I walked past mainly open doors on my way to the assigned patient, peering into the scorched face of the children and adults. I shined them all with a smile, in an attempt to brighten up their day before ending my walk at room 250. Quickly, I realized the severity of one of the cases. I laid my eyes upon him. The patient was lying in the bed, was covered from head to toe in bandages. I approached the patient, staring intently upon countless of tubes connected to him. "Hi, I'm Dr. Edenberg," I said. The scale rate monitor continued to sound as I checked his oxygen tank next to his bed. I knew he wasn't going to respond. He was brought in hours ago after he'd been in a coma since, but it's important to socialize with patients who are in comatose. Although they cannot speak, they can hear everything. "We're going to get you better, okay? You have my word," I said, as a nurse walked into the room. She changed the IV bag before staring at the heart rate monitor. "He's been steady ever since I got here," I said. She seemed to have nodded her head before glancing back at the patient. "Please get better," she said before walking out of the room. I smiled at her gesture, although she wasn't there to witness it. It wasn't encouraged to get attached to patients, but attaching yourself to someone who you really are around for a substantial amount of time is human nature. "I'll check on you every few hours, but that lovely nurse will be there for you more frequently. Don't worry, I think she's single," I said, smiling. I took one last look at that heart rate monitor before disappearing into the hall. Instinctively, my stomach began to growl. Being that it was way past my lunch break, it had every reason to be upset with me, so I hurried to the cafeteria. As usual, it was jam-packed with staff members, but near the television seemed unnaturally crowded, although my stomach was gurgling for food. I walked towards the crowd. "What's going on?" I questioned. Everyone sat still, listening on the reports of a tragic car crash on the highway. Police say that the car is being inspected for foul play after the man driving the car crashed into several vehicles before igniting, causing at least dozens of injuries and several fatalities, the reporter said. I stood speechless. I listened to one of the nurses in the conversations. "Room 250, I heard someone whisper. Luckily, I concluded the patient in room 250 was the man in report, but it was a bit saddening. He hadn't been that same idiot that lit a cigarette before falling asleep or some maniac that enjoyed playing with explosive fireworks. He was the man trying to go to work, feed his family. After hearing such somber report, I couldn't help but lose my appetite. So instead of making lunch, I decided to go home and be with my family. My car had been in the shop for a couple of days, so I walked a few miles home. The beauty of the scenery was uplifting. After the day in burned unit, I needed a tense sense of cheer to counteract with the supreme desolation within me. And with every stride towards my house, I felt a little less bogged down. But once I made it home, it made it very clear that my day would remain in the dirt, as I saw the same vehicle I had seen many times before whoever I decided to come home early from work. I stared fixedly at the Ford pickup truck in my driveway with rage within my heart. I knew my wife had stepped out on me a few years ago. All those days at work without even a call to ask me how she was doing, was enough to send her over the edge. I understood it, but I didn't want to admit my wife had been screwing with some guy behind my back. In my home. All this could have been avoided if I only come home more. If only I had talked to her, held her, and comforted her. But I didn't. I didn't even have the time to say hi to her. I was left with her free teenage boys and expect her not to fall apart with the stress. But this was my fault, and I didn't want to further disappoint her with my presence. So I turned around and headed back towards the hospital as a man. I didn't want to walk away. I wanted to storm in there, snatch that guy up by his collar, and beat the living shit out of him. But what would that solve? Nothing. So I walked back into the hospital with a sense of betrayal eating away in my heart. My feet seemed to grow heavier with each heavy stride, and it became louder to breathe within every step. At the end of the hall, I could see the nurses running towards the burn unit. I followed them, though past my pace was slower than usual. I ended my run at the doorway at room 250. Nurses panicked as they tried to revive the bandaged man lying on the bed. The smell of blood permeated through the room as they tore away at the bandages wrapped around his chest. After 3 failed attempts of resolution, the nurses backed away from the body. A few began crying immediately as they stared at the pulseless corpse. I stepped in and attempted to console the crying nurses, but something strange happened. My hand glided through her as I tried to pat her shoulder. Again, I tried believing I was hallucinating, but my hand seemed to evaporate with every attempt at eye contact. "You'll be missed, Dr. Edensberg," a nurse said. Quickly, a denial creeped up in my spine as I backed out of room 250 and into the hallway. Around me, scorched faces as I passed by earlier surrounded me. "Don't be afraid," one muttered. Another stretched their arms out underneath me before whispering, "Come with us." I fell to the ground, my eyes set upon the door of room 250. Today I lost it. My first patient, Dr. Timothy Edenberg. What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video. And I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, please stay pretty.